My name is Julia Carter. I'm 38 years old. For 6 years, since the day my parents retired early, I've been wiring them $600 every Friday morning without fail. That's $2,400 every month, over $172,000 in straight transfers, more than $214,000 when you count the extras. What I didn't know was that all that money was buying a front row ticket to watch them decide which grandchildren mattered and which didn't. I'm the dependable daughter. Stable accounting job, modest house in the suburbs, reliable sedan that rattles a little when it hits 60 but still passes inspection. My younger sister, Stephanie, is the star of every story my parents tell. She drives a BMW, takes business trips to Aspen that look a lot like vacations, and curates her life on social media with expensive cocktails and inspirational quotes. Mom calls her a real go-getter. Dad calls her our success story. Stephanie hasn't sent them a cent. When Mom called me about their retirement, she never asked directly. She just painted a picture. The market was disappointing, Julia. Your dad's pension isn't what they promised. Our savings aren't going to stretch as far as we thought. She let the silence after that sentence swell, like a balloon pressing against my chest, waiting for me to fill it. So I did what I've always done. I'll help, I told her. I can send something every week. Mom sighed with rehearsed reluctance. Only if you're sure, honey. We just hate to be a burden. She didn't call Stephanie. Stephanie never got those speeches about falling short or unexpected bills. Just me. At home, my life looked very different from Stephanie's filtered squares. My boyfriend Michael is a kindergarten teacher, the kind of man who kneels so he's eye level with his students and remembers every kid's favorite color. We're not married. We used to have a timeline for that. Then my parents' retirement shortfall swallowed our timelines one by one. We live in a small, slightly worn, but warm house with peeling white paint and a patchy lawn that Michael stubbornly insists will come back if we just give it time. Our daughter, Catherine, is 8 years old with serious eyes and wild imagination. When she was born, she rewired everything I thought I understood about love. Suddenly, money wasn't just numbers in a spreadsheet. It was time with her, safety for her, a future I could almost see. I thought being dependable, sending the money, taking the late-night worries, would earn respect. I thought quiet consistency would eventually be appreciated. I was wrong. My parents lived just 3 hours away, close enough to visit often, far enough to excuse not visiting at all. They came maybe twice a year. Christmas, if convenient. Sometimes for Catherine's birthday, if the weather was good and their schedule wasn't too packed. When they did come, it was like they were visiting a hotel, not their daughter's home. They'd arrive, stay for a few tight hours, and leave a faint trace of perfume and disapproval behind. They'd bring generic toys for Catherine, a random doll, a puzzle, something grabbed off a discount shelf. Then they'd sit at my kitchen table, drinking coffee I bought, in a house I helped keep running, and talk about Stephanie. You should see the resort she took us to last summer, Mom would say, pulling out her phone. She'd swipe through photos of them on a cruise deck, laughing in sunglasses, drinks in hand. I knew exactly which cruise that was. I'd sent $3,000 for it when Mom said Stephanie was going through a tight spot, and it meant the world for them to celebrate together. They never mentioned that part. Catherine would sit quietly at the corner of the table, clutching her drawings or practicing little dance steps in the living room, hoping one of them would look up. They rarely did. Michael noticed before I admitted it to myself. He'd watch them ignore Catherine's stories and brag about Stephanie's kids instead. When they drove away, he'd squeeze my hand. Your daughter deserves better, he'd say softly. You do too. And I'd give him the same answer every time. They're my parents. They're just old-fashioned. They don't mean anything by it. Then every Friday, I'd still send the 600. The school play felt like a chance to fix all of that. Catherine had landed the lead role in her school's production of The Wizard of Oz. She practiced for weeks. Every night after dinner, her voice would float through the house. There's no place like home. Michael sewed her blue gingham dress himself at the kitchen table, a mug of tea beside his elbow, pins between his lips. We found a too big pair of shoes at a thrift store and painted them until they shimmered like ruby slippers. On the night she tried on the full costume for the first time, she stood in front of the mirror, braids falling over her shoulders, eyes wide. I look like a real Dorothy, she whispered. You are a real Dorothy, Michael told her, kissing the top of her head. I wanted my parents to see that, to see her, to see us. 4 weeks before this performance, I called Mom on a Sunday afternoon. I felt like a kid again, waiting for approval. Catherine got the lead, I said, pride swelling in my voice. She's Dorothy. The play's in 4 weeks. We'd love for you and Dad to come. It would mean a lot to her. Mom's voice stayed flat. Oh, that's nice, Julia. Send us the details. I did, immediately. Text with date, time, address. 2 weeks later, I reminded her. 3 days before, I reminded her again. The only acknowledgement I got was a single thumbs up emoji. I told myself that was just how she texted, that it didn't mean anything. I forced myself to believe it was fine. The auditorium filled up early the night of the play. The air smelled like cheap hairspray and popcorn. Kids in costumes darted across the aisles. Parents fumbled with phones and bouquets. I saved 4 seats in the third row, perfect view of the stage. One for me, one for Michael, one for Hazel's mom, who had helped with rehearsals, and one for my parents. At 6:45 p.m., 15 minutes before curtain, the 4th seat sat empty. I refreshed my messages. Nothing. I typed anyway. We're in row 3, left side. Can't wait to see you. Love you. The word delivered appeared. Then read. No reply. Michael watched me slide my phone back into my bag. They're not coming, he said quietly. Maybe traffic, I lied, even though the rational part of me already knew. He squeezed my hand, but his jaw was tight. At 7 p.m. sharp, the lights dimmed. A hush fell over the room as the curtain creaked open. There was Catherine, stage left, standing in front of a painted farmhouse backdrop, clutching her basket. I watched her scan the audience. I knew exactly what she was looking for. Not me, not Michael. We were always there. She was searching for that empty 4th seat. I saw the precise moment her gaze passed over it and found nobody. Her shoulders dipped, just a fraction. A tiny deflation that probably no one else noticed. But I did. It sliced through me. Then she straightened, took a breath, and delivered her first line. She was perfect. Her voice only wavered once, during Somewhere Over the Rainbow, right at Troubles Melt Like Lemon Drops. I wondered if she was thinking about her grandparents, about the seat we'd saved, about the message their silence was sending louder than any applause. The play lasted 90 minutes. The kids bowed to a standing ovation. Parents cheered and whistled. Phones flashed. Catherine spotted us and ran straight into Michael's arms. He lifted her up, face glowing. You were incredible, he said, eyes shining. The best Dorothy I've ever seen. I kissed her cheek, tasting a mix of stage makeup and sugar. We are so proud of you, baby. You lit up that stage. She smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. She glanced over my shoulder at that still empty seat, then looked down. Did Grandma and Grandpa get lost? She asked. My heart clenched. They couldn't make it, I said carefully. But we were here, and we loved every second. She nodded, small and brave. We took her for ice cream after, let her stay up too late, showered her in praise. None of it could touch that flicker of hurt I'd seen in her gaze when she looked at that empty chair. After we tucked Catherine in, I sat on the edge of our bed in the dark, my phone heavy in my hand. Michael was in the bathroom, water running. I stared at Mom and Dad on my screen, thumb hovering over the call button. There had to be a reason, a good one. Car trouble, illness, something they tried to tell me and couldn't, something that didn't sound like indifference. I pressed call. Mom answered on the 3rd ring, sounding like I'd interrupted a TV show. Hello? Hey, Mom, I said, keeping my voice even. We missed you tonight at Catherine's play. There was a pause, not panic, not apology, just calculation. Oh, right, that was tonight, wasn't it? My grip tightened. Yeah, tonight. Catherine had the lead. We saved you and Dad a seat. Another pause. Longer this time. Then, in that same casual tone she uses to turn down invitations she never wanted in the first place. We decided not to come, Julia. We had other plans. Something cold crawled up my neck. Other plans? I repeated. Mom, I reminded you 3 times. Catherine was really hoping you'd be there. Her voice sharpened. Julia, we don't show up for kids who don't matter. For a second, I thought I'd misheard. The room tilted. The air went thin. What did you just say? I whispered. She exhaled, annoyed. You heard me. Stephanie's kids are our priority right now. Catherine she's fine, but she's not our focus. We have limited time and energy, and we choose to spend it where it matters most. The words landed like a slap I couldn't raise a hand to block. The woman who used to lecture me about family first, the one whose bills I paid, whose phone I kept on, whose prescriptions I covered, was telling me my daughter didn't matter. I couldn't speak. Julia, are you still there? She asked, impatient. I ended the call. My hand shook as I set the phone on the nightstand. A moment later, Michael stepped out of the bathroom, towel over his shoulder. One look at my face, and he froze. What happened? He asked. I swallowed, feeling something inside me crack and rearrange. I asked her why they didn't come, I said. She said, "We don't show up for kids who don't matter." Michael went pale, then red. His hands balled into fists at his sides. "She said that," he whispered. "About Catherine?" I nodded. Repeating the words out loud hurt worse than hearing them the first time, like dragging glass over an open wound. We sat there in silence, both of us staring at the closed bedroom door, where our daughter slept just a few feet away, oblivious to the verdict her grandparents had just passed on her. Something fundamental in me shifted. The dependable daughter, the quiet provider, the woman who always said, "They're my parents, it's fine." She died a little in that moment. What replaced her was something harder, sharper, and absolutely certain. I didn't know exactly what I was going to do yet. I just knew this. If my parents could look at my child and decide she didn't matter, they were about to find out what it felt like not to matter to me. I didn't sleep. I lay in the dark beside Michael, listening to his steady breathing and the soft hum of the heater, my eyes fixed on the faint glow of the alarm clock. 1:47 a.m., 2:19 a.m., 2:52 a.m. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Catherine on that stage, scanning the crowd. Every time I blinked, I heard my mother's voice. "We don't show up for kids who don't matter." At a little past 3 a.m., the numbers on the clock blurred and snapped into focus again. I couldn't stay still anymore. I slipped out of bed, careful not to wake Michael, and padded down the hallway. I paused outside Catherine's room, listening. She was breathing softly, one arm flung over her face, a smear of leftover glitter still on her cheek. A crumpled playbill lay next to her pillow. I swallowed the lump in my throat and forced my feet to keep moving. My home office felt colder than the rest of the house. The small desk lamp threw a cone of light over my laptop, the same one I used to file taxes for clients and prepare reports that never carried my name. Tonight it was going to do something else. I sat down, opened my laptop, and logged into my banking app. For once, I didn't look at the overall balance. I went straight to transaction history. 6 years of deposits, 6 years of withdrawals, 6 years of because that's what family does. I opened a blank spreadsheet. Old habit. I named it something neutral. Retirement support breakdown. That made it feel clinical, manageable, not like I was about to dissect a wound. I started at the beginning. The first transfer was easy to find. 6 years ago, a Friday morning. $600, weekly support. Recipient, Mom and Dad, joint checking. I copied the date and amount into the spreadsheet. Then the next Friday, and the next, and the next. I scrolled and scrolled, each line blurred into the last, a long column of identical sacrifices. I added a simple formula at the bottom, ICSUM BB. The total snapped into existence. 187 times, just from the weekly payments. I stared at the number until it stopped looking real and started looking like a second life I'd never lived. A down payment on a bigger house, 4 years of college tuition for Catherine, a decade of security that I'd simply wired away. And that was only the beginning. I opened another tab and searched for larger transfers. There was the $8,500 I sent for the roof repair after a storm devastated their shingles. Mom had called me in tears. "Insurance is being so difficult, Julia. We don't know what we'll do. It's either fix this or sell the house. You know how attached your father is to the place." I wired the money that same day. I added it to the spreadsheet. Then the $12,000 for Dad's dental implants when insurance refused to cover anything decent. "He's in pain all the time," Mom had said. "We don't want him chewing on those awful temporary teeth for years. We've done so much for you girls." So I'd done it. Another line in the spreadsheet. Next, $4,800 for Mom's car repair after she backed into a pole at the grocery store. "I feel so stupid," she'd said. "The bumper's ruined, the sensor's damaged. The insurance deductible is outrageous. I hate even asking, but..." She didn't actually finish the sentence. She never had to. Then there was $3,000 for Stephanie's cruise. Not her cruise. The cruise she took them on. "We'll pay you back," Mom had promised. "It's just a short-term thing. Stephanie's had some cash flow issues, but it's really important to her to treat us. You understand." They never repaid a cent. Line after line, I added each transfer, each emergency, each short-term thing that somehow became permanent. On the other side of the screen, my life played out in reverse. The vacations Michael and I didn't take. The ring he never bought because we both agreed the money was needed elsewhere. The summer programs Catherine skipped because we were being careful with our budget. I finished the list and watched the total cell update. 214,800. I checked the formula, checked it again. No error, no extra zero. $214,900. My stomach twisted. That was our future, my daughter's future, our memories, our security, our freedom. All poured into two people who couldn't drive 3 hours to sit in a chair and clap for 90 minutes. I opened a new document and started another list. This one more unsettling. Not just one-time transfers, the ongoing things. Their cell phone bill I'd switched to my plan temporarily about 4 years ago when they complained about the cost. Their internet and cable package quietly added to my account not long after. Their car insurance moved under my policy for a multi-car discount, then never moved back. Their supplemental health insurance premiums, which I paid quarterly because Mom said, "Monthly bills make me anxious. I'd rather you just handle it." Each service was another string tied from my life to theirs. Each bill, another invisible vein, siphoning our budget without me even thinking about it. I wrote them all down. Then I added the biggest one. I had co-signed in their mortgage refinance 3 years ago when their credit wasn't quite good enough. That meant my name was attached to the house I didn't live in, their equity climbing on my back while we stayed in our small place and told ourselves it was plenty for now. I'd always said yes because that's what good daughters do. Looking at it all in black and white, it didn't feel like generosity. It felt like a system. A machine I helped build that kept them comfortable and kept me tired. At some point, I heard Michael's footsteps in the hallway. The floorboards creaked in their usual complaint. He appeared in the doorway, rubbing sleep from his eyes, t-shirt wrinkled, hair sticking up. He took one look at the glow of the screen and the numbers filling it, and his expression sharpened immediately. "How long have you been up?" he asked. "I don't know," I said honestly. "A while." He stepped closer, leaning over my shoulder. Silence. His breath caught. "Julia, is that all to your parents?" I nodded. My voice felt too small to carry the weight of the numbers. "This is just the transfers," I said. "The weekly 600 plus the extras. It doesn't even include the bills that auto-deduct every month." He splayed his hand on the back of my chair like he needed to steady himself. "Just the weekly payments alone." He squinted at the figure. "That's 187,200? Yes. I clicked to the cell with the full total. His eyes widened. $214,900, he read slowly, as if saying it out loud might make the number shrink. "My God, Julia." I kept staring at the screen. "That's our kitchen," I said quietly. "The one we keep saying we'll renovate someday. That's the family vacation we've never taken. That's Catherine's college fund. That's everything we told ourselves we'd get to later." I felt heat at the corners of my eyes. I blinked it away. "For people who couldn't even show up for her once," I added. Michael sank into the chair beside me, elbows on his knees, hands clasped. He looked from the spreadsheet to my face. "What are you thinking?" he asked eventually. The old version of me, the one raised to keep the peace at any cost, wanted to say, "I don't know." To hedge, to soften. But after hearing my mother say my daughter didn't matter, something inside me stopped protecting them. I turned to him. "I'm thinking," I said slowly, tasting each word, "that I've spent 6 years building their comfort at the expense of our lives. I've paid for their roof, their teeth, their vacations, their cable, their phones, their insurance." My voice tightened. "And when Catherine had the biggest night of her life so far, they decided she wasn't worth the gas money." Michael's jaw clenched. "You do not owe them your life for giving you one," he said quietly, "and you definitely don't owe them your daughter's dignity." I looked back at the spreadsheet. All those rows, all those automatic payments, all that habit. I used to tell myself it was just money, I said, that it's what family does, that someday they'd see it, appreciate it. I shook my head, a bitter little laugh escaping. Turns out the only thing they see is Stephanie's Instagram. Michael reached over and covered my hand with his. "Whatever you decide to do," he said, "I'm with you. We're with you. You don't have to keep doing this just because you started." A thought had been forming quietly in the back of my mind since my mother hung up the phone. It took shape now, sharp and clear. I looked him straight in the eyes. "I don't want to fund their retirement anymore," I said. "Not when they think our daughter doesn't matter." He didn't flinch. "Okay," he said, "then we stop." I exhaled, shaky. "I don't want to be emotional about it," I added. "I want to be methodical. I want to know exactly what they've been living on, and then I want to shut it off. All of it. Clean." I tapped the edge of the laptop. "I want you to witness everything," I said, "so I can't convince myself later that I imagined this, that I overreacted." Michael squeezed my hand. "I'll be right here," he said, "every step." I looked back at the spreadsheet, at the date of the next scheduled Friday transfer. It was later that morning. "I'm not going to explode at them," I said. "I'm not going to beg them to understand. I'm just going to give them exactly what they gave Catherine. Michael's brow furrowed. Which is? He asked softly. I met his eyes. Nothing, I said. The word sat between us, heavy and final. I turned back to the screen and opened another tab, this one for my automatic payments. There was a strange calm settling over me, like the quiet after a storm decides which way it's going to move. For the first time in 6 years, I wasn't adjusting my life around their needs. I was about to adjust their lives around mine, and I knew exactly when I was going to start. Friday morning, when the whole machine would feel it at once. Morning arrived slowly, the kind of gray, muted Friday that feels suspended between night and day. I hadn't gone back to sleep after working in my office, but somehow the exhaustion didn't hit me. If anything, my mind felt sharper, like the fog of 6 years had finally burned off. I made coffee quietly, listening to the comforting sounds of Michael getting Catherine ready for school. Their laughter drifted down the hallway, hers bright and musical, his low and warm. It grounded me. At 7:15 a.m., Michael peeked into the kitchen. Are you ready? He asked. I nodded. He didn't ask if I was sure. He knew. 800 a.m. First cut. I sat down at my desk, opened my laptop, and logged into my bank. The automatic Friday transfer was sitting there, scheduled for today. $600 that had arrived every week for 6 years, like clockwork. I clicked cancel. The system asked, Are you sure you want to stop this recurring transfer? I didn't hesitate. Yes. My finger hovered for a fraction of a second, but not out of doubt, from the enormity of what the click meant. Then I pressed it. The confirmation flashed. Transfer canceled, effective immediately. I exhaled slowly. Okay, I whispered. That's one. Michael stood behind me, his hand on my shoulder, grounding me with silent strength. Phone plan, snipping the lines. Next, the family phone bill. Mine plus theirs. 4 lines total. I logged into the account and navigated to manage devices. I selected their 2 numbers and clicked remove lines. The screen displayed, service interruption will occur within 30 days unless the removed users activate their own plan. Perfect. They'd get a warning, then reality would hit. Confirm removal? Yes. Another string cut. My chest felt a fraction lighter. Car insurance. Immediate consequences. Next was the car insurance. I called the company because the policy wouldn't allow removal online. A cheerful agent answered. Thank you for calling North Star Auto. How can I help you today? I need to remove 2 vehicles and 2 drivers from my policy, I said. She asked me to clarify. I gave my parents' names and information. Would you like to transfer the policy to them instead? She asked. No, full removal. The agent processed it. Effective immediately, she confirmed. If they drive today, they'll be uninsured. I didn't react. Understood. I wrote down the confirmation number. Michael, standing behind me, let out a quiet breath. That one's going to hit fast. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Internet and cable. 4-hour window. I called the cable internet provider next. Would you like to transfer billing to the primary account holder's name? No, I said. Cancel entirely. That will take effect in approximately 4 hours. Perfect. 4 hours from now, their TV would freeze mid-show. Their Wi-Fi would cut out during a Facebook scroll. Their quiet afternoon would suddenly be silent. Another confirmation number. Another cord, severed. Supplemental health insurance. End of month. Next, their supplemental health insurance. Will the policyholders be providing a new payment method? That's not my concern, I replied. The agent sounded startled, but processed the cancellation. Coverage ends at the close of the current month. I wrote that down too. It felt strange, not vengeful, not triumphant, methodical, surgical, like repairing something by removing the rot. Mortgage. The final keystone. The biggest piece was the mortgage I co-signed. I logged into the mortgage portal and opened the payment section. The system automatically drafted from my account. Payments they took for granted. Payments I never questioned. Not this time. I clicked Cancel Autopay. Warning messages popped up. Are you sure? Late payments may result in fees. This may affect your credit score. I'd researched all of this earlier, enough that I knew my credit could take the hit and recover. Their credit would take the brunt first. Do it, Michael said softly. So I did. Autopay disabled. There it was, the last and largest pillar holding up the entire structure of their lifestyle. Gone. 9:47 a.m. Silence. When the last confirmation screen loaded, Michael leaned down and kissed the top of my head. How do you feel? He asked. I stared at the glowing monitors, at the spreadsheets, at the canceled services. Like I finally cut strings I didn't know were choking me, I said quietly. Because that's exactly what it felt like. The last 6 years had been a slow suffocation I'd mistaken for duty. Now, finally, there was air. 10:23 a.m. The first buzz. My phone vibrated. Just once. Mom, Julia, my phone isn't working. Did you forget to pay the bill? I stared at it. I didn't reply. 3 minutes later. Julia? Still nothing. 10:45 a.m. Mom called. I let it go to voicemail. Then she called again and again. Then Dad. Then Mom. I set the phone face down and walked into the kitchen. Catherine was at the table eating pancakes with whipped cream. Michael was flipping another one. They were laughing about the shape. It looked a little like a misshapen dog. For the first time, I let myself enjoy the moment without carrying the weight of someone else's crisis. My parents' messages buzzed nonstop from the office. I ignored everyone. 11:30 a.m. The panic phase begins. After lunch, Michael checked my phone. He returned with raised eyebrows. You have 17 missed calls and 12 texts. What do they say? He read them aloud. Why are our phones being shut off? Cable isn't working. Fix it. Insurance company called. What did you do? Our cell service says disconnection pending. Your father is trying to pick up a prescription, and they say our insurance is canceled. Then the last one. Julia, this isn't funny. Call us back now. We need to talk about your attitude. I laughed. Not a nice laugh. My attitude? I said. That's what she's worried about? Michael didn't answer. He didn't have to. We both knew this wasn't about a phone bill or a TV screen. It was about control, and I had finally taken it back. By mid-afternoon, the house was quiet except for the ticking of the wall clock and the low hum of the dishwasher. Catherine was at school for her Friday art club. Michael was grading papers in the living room, and I sat at my desk, phone face down, still buzzing every few minutes. By 2:34 p.m., Mom left a voicemail that Michael insisted I listen to. He placed my phone on the desk and hit play. Mom's voicemail. Her voice burst through the speaker, sharp with outrage and undercut by fear. Julia, I don't know what is going on, but you need to call me immediately. Your father tried to pick up his prescription, and they said our insurance is canceled. The cable isn't working. Our phones are about to be shut off. She took a shaky breath. If this is about last night, you are being completely unreasonable. We are your parents. You owe us respect, and you certainly owe us an explanation. I stopped the voicemail, deleted it. I owe them respect, I repeated flatly. After everything. Michael knelt beside my chair. You owe them nothing they didn't give you first, he said, and they gave Catherine nothing. I looked at him, absorbing the truth. They don't get to rewrite what happened, he added. You're not punishing them. You're matching their energy. Matching their energy. Exactly. They gave my daughter absence. I gave them silence. 2:47 p.m. Another name appears. My phone buzzed again. A new text. Not from Mom, not Dad. Stephanie. Dude, what did you do? Mom's freaking out. I didn't waste a second. I typed the reply I'd been waiting months, maybe years, to send. Ask Mom what she said about Catherine. The typing bubbles appeared, disappeared, appeared again, stopped. She didn't respond. Good. Let her sit with that. 4:47 p.m. The neighbor's phone call. My phone lit up with an unfamiliar number, a local area code. I answered. Julia, Mom's voice from someone else's phone. My stomach hardened like stone. Our cells are completely dead. I'm calling from a neighbor's house. You need to tell me what's happening. Why are all our services being canceled? Why aren't you answering? This is ridiculous. Her tone wasn't confusion. It was entitlement wrapped in panic. Finally, I spoke. Did you ever stop to think it might be connected to what you said last night? Silence. The first real silence I'd heard from her in months. Is this about the play? She asked carefully. This is about what you said when I asked why you didn't come. I heard a breath on the other end, a guilty one. Julia, I may have been a bit harsh. A bit harsh? My voice was cold steel. You told me we don't show up for kids who don't matter, about my daughter. Her breath hitched. I didn't mean... Yes, you did. The numbers she never expected. I pulled the spreadsheet closer. Do you want to know what 6 years of helping you looks like? I asked. Mom didn't answer, so I continued. $187,200 in weekly payments alone. She gasped quietly. I kept going. Plus the roof I paid for, Dad's implants, your car repairs, Stephanie's cruise, the emergencies. Over $214,900. Yes. What? Julia, no. Oh, and the mortgage I co-signed for you? I canceled the automatic payment. You'll need to figure that out yourselves. Her voice cracked. We needed that money. We're your parents. We raised you. And Catherine is your granddaughter, I snapped. But you decided she doesn't matter. Now you get to manage without me. Julia, please, she cried. We can't afford... You'll figure it out, I said, echoing her own dismissive tone. I pictured Catherine on stage, shoulders dipping, when she saw the empty seat. You know, I added. That night, Catherine had to figure out why you weren't there. Now you and Dad can figure out your bills. A beat, her voice fell to a whisper. Are you abandoning us? That word, abandoning. No, I said. I'm giving you the same thing you gave Catherine. Which is nothing. Then I hung up and blocked the number. Michael stood in the doorway, watching me with a mixture of pride and sorrow. You okay? He asked. I took a breath that tasted like freedom and ash. I think so, I said. I think I am. Saturday, escalation. By Saturday morning, I turned my phone on to check work email. There were 47 new texts, 19 voicemails. I deleted them without opening most. Michael skimmed a few and summarized. Anger, accusations, guilt, bargaining, pleas, panic, blame, the full cycle. I put the phone aside. Sunday. Stephanie calls. I answered because I was curious. Her voice was half exasperated, half anxious. Julia, what the hell? You can't do this to them. They said Catherine doesn't matter, I replied simply. Mom said she was being dramatic. You're taking it out of context. Did she tell you the exact quote? I asked. Silence. No? I'll repeat it for you, I said. We don't show up for kids who don't matter. Stephanie inhaled sharply. I continued calm but unyielding. So now you get to step in. You're the golden child. You're the one they show up for. Time to help them with bills, Steph. I can't afford to figure it out. And I hung up. In the quiet that followed, something in my chest unclenched. For the first time in a long time, I felt equal to myself. I wasn't carrying anyone else's life on my back, just my own, and the people who truly mattered. Dad showed up sooner than I expected. Monday afternoon, around 4:30 p.m., the front desk at my office buzzed my line. Julia, there's a man here asking for you. He says he's your father. My stomach didn't drop. It didn't twist. It didn't do anything dramatic. I just felt done. Tell him I'm unavailable, I said. There was a pause, the receptionist choosing her words. He says he'll wait. I stared at my computer screen, a spreadsheet of quarterly projections, feeling a strange sense of déjà vu. Dad waiting for me. Dad expecting access. Dad assuming I'd appear when summoned. Tell him, I said slowly, that I'm leaving through the back entrance, and he should go home. The receptionist hesitated. Are you sure? Yes, I said, absolutely. I packed my bag, walked down the quiet hallway, and slipped out the back door into the cool evening air. When I drove out of the garage, I passed the lobby window. There he was, Dad, sitting stiffly on one of the chairs, arms crossed, foot tapping, the posture of a man who expected his daughter to rearrange her life the moment he appeared. He didn't see my car leave. I didn't honk, I didn't wave, I didn't make anything easier for him. The home visit. Later that evening, as the sun dipped pink and gold across the neighborhood, Dad's car pulled into our driveway. I watched from the living room window as he marched to the door with the determination of someone convinced the universe was on his side. The doorbell rang. Once, twice, 3 times. Michael muted the TV. You ready? He whispered. I shook my head. We didn't answer. Dad knocked next. Hard, fast, the way he used to when we were kids, and Mom had locked herself in the bathroom crying after a fight. Then he called my name, then Michael's, then even Catherine's. We stayed silent. After 10 minutes, he stopped pounding. Then something slid through the gap of the door frame. A white envelope. His footsteps retreated. His car engine started. He drove away. Michael locked the door behind him, even though Dad was already gone. We let the envelope sit there for a moment, its existence heavy and unwanted. Finally, Michael walked over, picked it up carefully, like it might explode, and handed it to me. You don't have to read it tonight, he murmured. But I needed to. I needed to know exactly where they stood. The letter. 2 pages, handwritten. Their neat script, both of them sharing the same pen. The first line made me snort out an involuntary, humorless laugh. We're sorry we hurt your feelings about the play. Not, we're sorry we missed it. We're sorry we said something cruel. We're sorry Catherine felt unloved. Not a hint of accountability. Just sorry they hurt my feelings, as though I had made this about me and not about an 8-year-old girl they had just discarded. The next paragraph spiraled into excuses. We'd had a long week, we were tired, we didn't realize it was such a big deal. We thought you would understand. I scanned every sentence, searching for one thing they still couldn't bring themselves to say. Catherine matters. It wasn't there, not even close. The third paragraph was the truth they'd been circling. We need the money restored immediately. The mortgage payment is due in 6 days. Our credit cards are maxed out. We can't afford groceries or medication. We're scared, Julia. Ah, there it was. The heart of it. Not regret, not love, not concern. Need. Dependence. Expectation. The final paragraph sealed it. After everything we did raising you, after all the sacrifices we made, this is how you repay us? We deserve better than this cruel treatment. What kind of daughter abandons her parents over something so small? Something so small. Those words cut deeper than the rest. I read that line 3 times, numbness spreading through my chest like frost. Michael sat beside me slowly, watching my expression shift. Well, he said softly, that tells you everything, doesn't it? I nodded. It does. It told me they would never understand. They would never see Catherine. They would never see me. They only saw the money. My response. I stood up, went to my office, and opened the drawer where I kept the printed spreadsheet. Every payment, every date, every total. I picked it up. Then I retrieved the second document I'd drafted, but hadn't yet decided whether to send. A letter. Brief. Unemotional. Undeniable. I held both documents in my hands, the weight of 6 years condensed into a stapled packet and a single piece of paper. Michael, I called softly, I'm going out for a minute. Do you want me to come? I shook my head. This part's mine. He let me go, delivering the truth. My parents' house looked the same as always. The porch light flickering, the garden over-trimmed, the curtains drawn tight like they were hiding from the world. I didn't knock. I slipped the envelope between their front door and the frame, wedging it exactly as Dad had done at mine. Then I snapped a photo for my records and left. There was power in not lingering. There was peace in turning away. The letter I left them. It said, you asked what kind of daughter abandons her parents over something so small. I would ask what kind of parents tell their daughter that her child doesn't matter. But I already know. The kind who take $214,900 in 6 years and call it love. The kind who show up for one grandchild and ignore another. The kind who believe respect is owed, not earned. I didn't abandon you. I stopped enabling you. There is a difference. You taught me that family should be there for one another. Catherine learned that lesson when she looked for you in the audience and found an empty seat. I'm learning it now as I redirect the money I gave you to her future instead. She matters. She's always mattered. And every dollar I invest in her is a dollar I should have invested all along. Julia. I didn't sign love. For once, I didn't pretend. When I got home, Michael met me at the door, eyes searching mine. You okay? He asked. I am, I said, for the first time in a long time. He pulled me into his arms, and I let myself lean into him, into the steadiness I'd neglected for years while carrying everyone else. That night, my phone rang 16 times. Mom called 22 more. I blocked both numbers. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was relief. The days that followed felt strangely quiet, like the house had exhaled after years of holding its breath. No emergency calls, no guilt-laced voicemails, no passive-aggressive reminders about everything they'd done for me. Just silence. And in that silence, something grew. Space, breath, room for my own life. The aftershocks. By Tuesday morning, the consequences began to surface, not just in my inbox, but through people I didn't expect. My phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. I didn't answer. Minutes later, Michael's phone rang. He raised an eyebrow and put it on speaker. It was my aunt, Mom's sister, with the tone of someone marching into battle. Is Julia there? She's not answering my calls. Michael stayed calm. She's not available right now. My aunt took a breath sharp enough to cut glass. Your wife is tearing this family apart. She needs to stop this vendetta and support her parents. Vendetta. The word tasted sour in my mind. Michael spoke before I could even gesture. You mean the parents who've taken over $200,000 from her and couldn't show up for their granddaughter's play? My aunt sputtered. That's different. They're family. Michael's voice stayed even. So is Julia. So am I. And so is Catherine. But Catherine didn't matter enough for them to drive 3 hours. The line crackled with awkward, angry silence. Well, my aunt finally snapped, Julia should behave like a daughter. Julia behaved like a daughter for 6 years, Michael replied. Now she's behaving like a mother. And he hung up. He turned to me then, and the fierceness in his eyes made my throat tighten. You and Catherine come first, he said. Always. It was the kind of sentence I should have heard from my own parents. But I was hearing it from the man who actually showed up for us every day. Legal threats. By Thursday afternoon, an email landed in my inbox from a law firm I didn't recognize. Subject: Notice of Intent. Filial Responsibility. So they were going there. I opened the message. It was long, stuffed with legalese, citing state filial responsibility laws, antiquated statutes requiring adult children to support impoverished parents. I forwarded the email to my lawyer, a college friend who'd drafted our wills years ago. He called me 10 minutes later. Julia, don't worry. These laws are rarely enforced, and your parents don't meet the criteria. They own a home, they receive retirement income, and they're not incapacitated. They're just... He paused delicately. Mad you stopped paying. I figured, I said. Delete the email, he said. Let them pay a lawyer to send empty threats. It'll cost them more than it costs you. He hesitated. And Julia, good for you. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. Redirecting everything. The next morning, something in me shifted. I sat at the dining table with my laptop open, the sun streaming across the wood in soft morning gold. Catherine was at school. Michael was prepping materials for his class. I logged into my bank, the same spot where the weekly $600 transfer used to sit. The empty line waiting for something. I set up a new transfer, $600, every Friday morning, to Catherine's college fund. When the confirmation screen popped up, I took a screenshot and texted it to Michael. He walked in seconds later, still holding a stack of worksheets. You did it, he said softly. She matters, I said, and now the money proves it. He kissed the top of my head. I didn't know it then, but that single transfer would grow faster than I imagined, would become its own quiet revolution. The house falls. Exactly 1 week after I canceled everything, I received a notification on my phone. Mortgage payment overdue. Late fee assessed. I expected guilt. A pang, maybe. Something. Nothing came. Or rather, something did. Relief. Because the problem was no longer mine to fix. A month later, the downsize. By late November, I heard through Stephanie, who still called occasionally to vent, that my parents had sold their house. It's all your fault, she snapped. They're devastated. You helping them with their new place? I asked calmly. Silence. I already knew the answer. The winter recital. But the true turning point wasn't their house. It wasn't their lawyer. It wasn't the barrage of texts or the sudden quiet afterward. It was Catherine's winter recital. She stood on the school stage again, this time wearing a sparkly red scarf and singing Tomorrow from Annie. Her voice was stronger, clearer, more confident than ever. And the seats? Packed with people who loved her. Michael beside me. Hazel's whole family. Michael's parents, who drove 6 hours and brought flowers. Even our elderly neighbor, Mrs. Ray, who always brought Catherine cookies. Catherine searched the crowd this time too. Not for absences, for us. For the faces that glowed with pride and joy. Halfway through her song, she locked eyes with me. Her smile, pure, bright, full, felt like it reached across every scar left by the people who weren't there. I squeezed Michael's hand. This, I whispered, is what family looks like. After the show, Catherine ran off stage straight into my arms. Did you see me? She asked breathlessly, even though she'd looked right at us the whole time. We always see you, Michael said, sweeping her up. We always show up. She hugged us tight. And in that crowded, noisy gymnasium, I felt something settle inside me. A truth I'd chased for decades. A truth I'd bought and paid for with silence, self-sacrifice, and misplaced loyalty. She mattered. We mattered. And the people who showed up were the ones who deserved our hearts. The life we should have had sooner. With no emergencies draining our budget, changes began to ripple through our life in quiet but powerful ways. We upgraded Michael's car so he didn't have to pray to the gods of combustion every time he turned the key. We finally started the long-delayed kitchen renovation. Catherine insisted on choosing the color of the new cabinets. We took her to Disney World over winter break, the trip we'd postponed for 6 years. She cried when she saw Cinderella's castle lit up at night. We cried too. We laughed more, argued less, stopped living on alert. For the first time, our life felt like ours. Not theirs. The last tie breaks. Months later, my lawyer called. Good news, he said. Your parents refinanced the mortgage. You're no longer on the loan. I sat on the back steps watching Catherine chase fireflies. I felt a sense of freedom so profound it was almost strange. Michael stepped outside, wiping his hands on a towel. You okay? He asked. I nodded. Better than okay. Because I'd stopped mistaking obligation for love, stopped confusing guilt with responsibility, stopped carrying people who had chosen not to carry us. This was the life I should have been living all along. The life Catherine deserved. The life we were finally building, one Friday transfer, one loving choice, at a time. Spring crept in quietly. Soft rain, greener lawns, the smell of earth warming after months of cold. Life settled into something steadier, smoother, almost startling in its simplicity. No more late-night panic calls from my parents. No scrambling to cover someone else's crisis. No guilt sitting on my chest like a stone the size of a mortgage. Just us, our house, our daughter, our plans. The life that had been waiting for us beneath the weight of obligation. The college fund. One Friday morning in early April, I logged into our bank account to make sure everything looked right. The weekly $600 transfer to Catherine's college fund had processed on schedule, just like it always had. Except this time, it wasn't dissolving into someone else's emergencies. It was building, growing, becoming something solid and real for Catherine. The balance caught me off guard. 15,000 plus, in only a few months. I sat back, a strange, warm tightness rising in my chest. This is what her future should have always looked like. Not delayed, not sacrificed, not drained away because of someone else's choices. Michael walked in, hair mussed, holding 2 mugs of coffee. "Checking the fund?" he asked knowingly. I nodded and showed him the balance. He let out a breath. "That's incredible," he said. "She's going to have such a strong start." I smiled, feeling something like pride, like victory, like healing. "She deserves it," I said. "She's always deserved it." He wrapped an arm around my shoulder and kissed my temple. "And you're making it happen." No, we were. Because when I finally cut off the people who drained us, I made room for the people who filled us. A trip we could finally say yes to. We took Catherine to Disney World during her spring break. Not the budget version we'd always talked about but never managed. Not the maybe next year trip we promised while paying other people's bills. A real one. She saw the castle at night, lit up in blues and golds, and grabbed my hand so tight her fingers trembled. "Mom," she whispered, "it's real. It's really real." I had to blink fast to hide the way my eyes stung. Michael lifted her into his arms, and she wrapped her little arms around his neck, cheeks flushed with joy. We rode rides. We ate overpriced snacks. We let Catherine pick out a sparkly pair of Minnie Mouse ears. We laughed. Big, loud laughs that felt like they shook off years of exhaustion. Every moment felt like reclaiming something I didn't know I had lost. Rebuilding ourselves. When we came home, the air felt different, lighter, like the walls themselves had unclenched. The weekly transfer continued building quietly in the background. The kitchen renovation moved forward. We hosted neighbors for dinner. Catherine had playdates almost every weekend. And my phone? It stayed quiet. My parents never apologized. Not really. Not in a way that mattered. They moved to a small apartment an hour away. Stephanie helped when she felt like it, and complained about it constantly. The lawyer letters stopped. The calls stopped. The guilt stopped. It was strange how peace can feel unfamiliar when you've lived without it for so long. The porch conversation. On a warm April evening, Catherine and I sat on our back porch watching fireflies dance across the yard. She was tucked under my arm, her head on my shoulder, hair smelling like strawberry shampoo. She was quiet for a while, too quiet. Finally, she spoke. "Mom?" "Yes, sweetheart?" She hesitated, picking at a loose thread on her pajama pants. "Is it okay that Grandma and Grandpa don't come to my things anymore?" My chest tightened. I brushed her hair back gently. "What do you think?" She mulled it over sincerely, because that's the kind of thoughtful mind she has. "I think—" She kicked her feet softly. "I used to be sad, but now I think maybe it's better." "Better?" I asked, surprised. She nodded. "Because the people who come really want to be there," she said simply. "Like you, and Dad, and Grandpa Mark, and Grandma Ellen, and Hazel's family. Everybody who comes actually watches me." I swallowed hard. Children have a brutal, beautiful way of cutting right to the truth. "That's right," I whispered. "That's exactly right." She leaned into me again. "So it's better to have a few people who really love you than a lot of people who pretend?" My throat tightened painfully. "Yes," I said softly. "Yes, baby. That's one of the most important things you'll ever learn." She seemed satisfied with that answer and went back to watching the fireflies blink across the grass. I watched her, and I thought about empty seats and the people who leave them behind, about the ones who show up and how they fill more than just a chair, about the cost of choosing people who never chose you back, and the freedom in finally letting them go. Every dollar, a promise. The $600 I used to send my parents now went to Catherine's future. Every Friday morning, when the transfer processed, I felt that same quiet sense of justice, a realignment, a correction to years of imbalance. Every week, I remembered my mother's words. "We don't show up for kids who don't matter." And every week, my actions said something different, something truer, stronger, louder. She matters. She's always mattered. And now every dollar I spend proves it. I didn't just reclaim my finances. I reclaimed my family. My peace, my priorities, my future. And Catherine? She never had to look for love in an empty seat again.